We're in downtown Olympia. And it sounds like there's been some protest that has gone beyond protest into riot. Group of protesters southbound on Washington Street. Some reports of broken windows on 4th Avenue, as well as at City Hall, apparently. So just gonna check out some of the reported vandalism. Can't quite tell about what the vandalism is. That was spray painting, because it's just everywhere, so you can't really tell what's new and what's not. But broken windows are a little bit easier to find. Looks like the
there's some coke trucks behind us.
looks like a lot of ACAB spray paint. That could be new. Gentrification and racism. Not seeing any particularly broken windows on 4th Avenue just yet.
They're actually tagging the buildings now instead of just taking the bank. Windows are broken at the pet shop. Pet shop got fucked up. Windows were all busted out. Yeah.
Looks like
busted out the bars.
Hey, we've got a fire here at Jefferson and 4th, or a fire unit responding.
Looks like
City Hall. Something's going on at City Hall, of course.
Looked like the bookstore was broken into.
We're gonna loop around to Olympia City Hall and see what exactly has taken place. There's a lot of police cruisers around.
Holy shit. Sorry.
Go ahead and turn here if they'll let us. So let's we're in downtown Olympia on America's 244th birthday. It looks like some folks have decided to protest beyond just protesting and go back to vandalism and violence. Let's jump on to Legion real quick. We have both police and fire, as well as Washington State Patrol.
Take a left. Then take a right. Right.
And it looks like there's a good size crowd here in the middle of Legion.
If you're worried about there's an alleyway right here we can shoot down. You're passing it.
Go up here and take a right quickly. We don't want to get in the way of them. lot of folks dressed in ninja pajamas coming down Legion.
That's a lot of fucking people. We need 50. I know. That's what I wanted. 50 people. What if the police are where that crowd's going that way?
There's a group of looked like about 40 to 50 people heading east.
Broken window.
Broken window at Rumor's Wine Bar.
You got police coming.
County Sheriff is responding to help. Go ahead and follow, give them a little bit of room.
There's more broken windows along here too, so to look at.
Along 4th Avenue, headed east towards City Hall, it looks like there are some broken windows.
Pet store for sure. What's he saying? Fireworks?
We don't necessarily need the publicity, but if you know folks that are in support of legitimate protests but fed up with vandalism and violence,
Right there.
clue them in. Give them an invite
More broken windows.
to see.
Look at all the broken windows. Pet store. The bus stop. Right there. Bars. Yeah. That was our table. They're on the list of people that are supporting us. The tavern's busted up.
So go straight. Go straight.
These windows are all busted and spray painted.
Okay, just pull right in front. Pull right up here. Pull over here.
I'll pull over right here.
Okay.
Oh, these are all broke out right here at the Holy Cafe. I think they said they got them. It's because they got from City Hall.
So just keep your eyes peeled for me if you would.
Knock off.
This is Olympia's sort of signature coffee house. Olympia Coffee Roasters, which to our knowledge has up until now been spared. But if you're looking for sort of logic or that kind of thing, you're not going to find it.
Watch your step, bro.
Completely broken out windows.
I'll get you far away from me.
There's the concrete used to smash the windows. And looks like over here at Equal Latin, smash up some planters.
That's where they get the concrete from.
Well, it looks like they might have spared their windows.
No, I think this one's broken.
So this is directly kitty corner from the City Hall building in downtown Olympia, Washington, where after quite a large protest this afternoon, I believe starting around 2 o'clock, 2:30, went from West Olympia down to the Capitol building. But after that sort of broke up, then what remained were the kids who were ninja pajamas. And your city hall, if you live in Olympia, has spray paint, 1 panel, 2 panel, yes sir, 3 panel, 4 panel, 5 panel, 6 panel, 7 panel, 8 panel, 9 panels, 10, 11 panels, 12 panels. Of course, thanks to Councilwoman Dani Madrone, your newly elected city councilwoman in Olympia, for writing numerous letters worrying about vigilantes. And that's the big concern now, apparently, from the woke crowd. Signed on by Mayor Cheryl Selby, signed on by City Councilwoman Jessica Bateman, who thinks she should be rewarded with a seat in the legislature for signing on against vigilante justice. Not a peep from Dani Madrone, from Mayor Cheryl Selby, from Mayor Pro Tem Jessica Bateman. Not a peep from Councilwoman Lisa Parshley. Not a peep from Councilman Clark Gilman. Not a peep from Councilman Jim Cooper. Did I leave anybody out? I may very well have, because when they don't give a peep about the actual damage, terrorizing and holding our city hostage, and all they do is sign self-righteous, grandstanding letters about sanctimonious fears of non-existent vigilante bands roving our streets, terrorizing our people, and then strong-arm merchants downtown to sign on against that without giving a frog's fat ass against terrorizing our city. Tell you what, if you care, maybe you could write an email to these woke 33 politicians who signed off against the evil, fictitious vigilantes, militia, 3%ers, Proud Boys, whatever bullshit they've been making up, and instead say, hey, what about signing on as the Thurston folks, Thurston leaders for peaceful protests? What about signing on to the simple resolution that says, hey, we support people's civil rights to peacefully assemble, to protest, to march, to chant, to engage in nonviolent civil disobedience. And it's not an either-or issue, City Council. It's not an either-or issue, legislative reps for our District 22 and aspiring legislative reps for District 22. It's not an either-or issue, aspiring county commissioners. It's an and issue, and we also support peaceful protests. We unequivocally disavow and denounce violence and vandalism. Maybe Jessica Bateman could sign on for that. Maybe Mayor Cheryl Selby could sign on for that. Maybe Councilman Clark Gilman could sign on for that. Maybe Councilman Jim Cooper could sign on for that. Oh, you know who I forgot? Woke Councilwoman Renata Rollins. Maybe she could sign on against violence and vandalism in protests.
Yeah, like forever ago. Yep. You let our men in blue.
There's your city hall.
Watch out, watch out, watch out.
stay out of frame if you would. We can't have those vigilantes running through town, those 3%ers, those AR-15 wearing militia. We have to write protest letters against that, the bands of hoodlums that don't exist, but we'll just ignore and posture and virtue signal and showcase our self-righteousness that we're so woke and enlightened, and we don't care if you fuck up our city. We don't care if you hold our downtown hostage after it's already been held hostage for 12 weeks by coronavirus lockdown. Because it's not us that's losing. It's not our nose to the grindstone. We're getting paid. ACAB. What an ignorant, stupid acronym. We should do an informal poll here. You guys ever saved anybody's life? Anonymous? Voice only?
Yeah.
You ever taken anybody's life? So we're +1 right here. You ever taken anybody's life?
Nope.
Ever saved anybody's life?
Yep.
I don't know how I knew that the math would work in favor of cops not being all bastards. Except unless you're a snot-nosed kid wearing ninja pajamas, then you know everything. If you go to the City of Olympia website, you can find an email address that goes to all. You don't even have to look up all 7 worthless city council members. You don't have to look up the mayor or the mayor pro tem, Cheryl Selby or Jessica Bateman. You can go to and find an address for all 7. You only have to send it once and say, why the hell can you not disavow and denounce violence and vandalism in protests, even though you support the right to peacefully assemble, even though you support the right to engage in nonviolent civil disobedience, even though you support the right to march and carry signs and chant. Maybe you could do that. While you're at it, you can find on our page the citizens petition supporting those same measures. Or you can invite friends to see this nonsense. Invite friends to see us as something that people look at as, wow, I'm glad we don't live there. I've been here long enough to remember Olympia consistently for like 3 or 4 years being voted as America's most livable city or in the top 5 or the top 10. And I don't know who that drew, but it drew some people here who didn't want it to be most livable city after that. Somehow it drew people who thought that smashing windows out of a locally owned coffee shop, a locally owned roastery, that somehow is going to lead to social justice. I'm being a little facetious because the people who smash this out don't give a frog's fat ass about social justice. They care about dressing up in little ninja costumes and being jackasses. And if you sit home and do nothing, Olympia, Thurston County, South Sound, if you say nothing, Governor Inslee, Denny Heck, Lori Dolan, Beth Dolio, then you deserve this. We've got a legislator. We don't even have a city councilwoman who thinks she deserves rewards to go to the state legislature because she's so woke and been so effective for cleaning up and improving Olympia. We've got a legislator and state legislature in our area who thinks she deserves rewards to go to the U.S. Congress because she's been so helpful in taking care of our district. Well, if you care so much about our damn district, maybe you could issue just a tiny declaration that says, nah, not so much. Not so much in support of this. I got the spine to denounce people who smash windows and call it advocacy or allyship or whatever bullshit name they give to it.
David, you should have interviewed that girl. She worked for. She was in tears.
She works at Hey! You guys work at Olympia Coffee Roasters?
Yeah, she does.
Can I ask you a couple questions on or off camera? Which do you prefer?
Depends on the question.
Well, the first one is, how do you feel when you drive up on a locally owned business that has a great reputation for a whole lot of involvement in our city? How do you feel when you see that?
I feel fucking devastated. I mean, working at this business for coming up on a year now, my life has been drastically better because of it. And I feel good working for an ethical company that cares about people, because we source our coffee from very low income, impoverished countries. We give them quality of life. We pay them over double the price that anyone else pays for coffee so that they can live good lives. They can be happy, they can have children, they can have housing, they can have food, water, everything that everyone deserves coming to this world. This company helps give them. And those windows cost thousands of dollars to replace. And I've been told by my boss that if those windows get broken, we will most likely go out of business. So I don't even know if I have a job tomorrow. And the fucked up thing is that us white people who work there just serving stupid fucking lattes every day, we don't really matter. What matters is those people in those impoverished countries who probably, who knows what's going to happen to them.
They won't have a buyer for their coffee anymore.
No, they'll go back to living in the fucking slums, in dirt, not having anything that they come into this world deserving.
So I'm going to acknowledge how upset you are and frustrated and brought to tears. But at the same time, I want to challenge you on one thing. You're giving me good reasons why people shouldn't do this, as if there's some logic to their actions.
I completely understand going after corporations who have billions, trillions of dollars. I completely understand going after City Hall, who have funds to back them, who have money to fall back on, who have so many resources. But us local businesses who are holding everything together, who support Black Lives Matter, we're crumbling and we're falling apart. Any sense of community that these people could have, any family that they could have who are backing them up, they are destroying. They are completely destroying. And they don't even know. It doesn't even feel like they care. It feels like they have such rage clouding their eyes. And I get the rage. I get the pain completely. But keep in mind who you're fucking directing that at. Because I won't have a job. Other people won't have a job. More people are being affected than who they fucking think.
I've talked to people that have said two things. The first thing they've said is, you know what, we don't want this. It makes BLM look bad. We stop at 9:30 or so and a whole different crowd of black pajamas shows up and fucks up our city. What do you say to that?
I just think that people who are looking for an excuse to play anarchist, who are looking for an excuse to just take out whatever feelings they have just anywhere on anything, is fucking immature and irresponsible. And they should really be directing their energy and resources elsewhere. Why aren't they at home signing petitions, donating money, gathering groups, peaceful protesting? There could be so much more tangible change rather than them just going out and being violent. And I get the violence, I get it, I completely understand it, and I empathize with it, but ultimately it doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things because they're just hurting themselves.
The second thing that I have heard from people, I've interviewed some protesters in plain clothes and willing to show their face, and people in ninja pajamas. And I've heard some variation of this. Hey, a few windows get broken, sorry, but that's collateral damage. That's necessary evil to get our message across and poke through and to get change. And so if you value property above people, then F you. What do you say to that?
I don't think it's just about I think when it comes to corporations, when it comes to places like City Hall, it is just about property and lives are more valuable. But I think people fail to see how everything is interlinked and interconnected, and them damaging local property isn't just damaging local property. It's taking away money from local property, it's taking away jobs from local people, and jobs that us local people supply to people in other countries.
Somebody told me the other day the biggest ignorance they see is like when somebody walked along, I think it was Capitol Boulevard, with spray paint and just a straight line, window after window after window, completely ignorant of how much money gets siphoned out of communities by corporate America, Applebee's, Red Robin, McDonald's, why they are not targeting the siphoners instead of targeting what you're talking about, and also completely ignorant of how much a plate glass window costs, even if you don't shatter it, even if you just spray paint it and it has to be cleaned, how that can deglaze it, and then it's another $2,000.
Yeah. It just feels like shooting yourself in the foot. Because the way that tangible change is actually going to happen is from the very, very top, with your vote, with petitions, with all of that, with where you put your money. If you really want to fuck over the corporations, if you really want to fuck over the system, put your money elsewhere. Your money is your strongest thing. Put your money elsewhere.
Well, we either have some people who think that their baseball bat is their strongest thing, or they have some other motivation, that there's some good reason why I want to break things with my baseball bat because it feels good.
I think it's ridiculous. I think, again, it's just misguided. And they could be directing their energy and their resources somewhere that's way better. Somewhere that's not destructing the community that they're in and a part of. A community that supports them, mind you. Olympia is so supportive of Black Lives Matter, and yet Olympia is the most fucking strongly hit place.
It is a little bit ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't fucking make sense.
But again, that would be asking people to behave with logic and reason. And the people who use logic and reason departed at about 9:30.
It's just ridiculous.
Hey, you guys, be safe. You tell me. Hey, tell your owners I give them my best, and I hope you have a job as well. I know how ignorant. I mean, Olympia, South Sound, Thurston County. Just know that plate glass windows are not disposable. They're incredibly expensive, and they can make or break a business. They can make or break somebody's local job. Well, somebody went to town on our town with about 14 broken panes over there, as well as Olympia coffee roasters.
On Franklin.
There's about 20 spots around town, which is why we have Washington State Patrol and...
They're everywhere. Just look around. They were walking down leeches just about 20 minutes ago. It's like a massive group of people.
See, that's the shit I don't like, bro. Some destroying shit.
Yeah.
You guys have been in protests. I'm not going to show you. Give me a 30-second elevator speech on the difference between why you're down here lots of nights. I've seen you down here. I saw you up at Woodruff. And I don't know that you're not here with a baseball bat breaking windows, but I haven't seen it. Why aren't you doing that, but you're down here protesting?
Because I'm all for the peaceful shit. Like, I'm Native American. I'm all for the peaceful shit. That's just what we're all peaceful. All the peaceful shit's fine. I kind of
We've tried to stop them before, but they fucking ransacked us, bro. They tried to beat our ass.
Like, we stopped them once from burning a flag, but...
You guys are at least twice the size of any...
Yeah, no, you say one thing and they just put a lot of words in your mouth.
They start saying, he's a rape. They just start throwing shit.
Yeah, they start throwing shit in your mouth and they just attack
Those are
whoever
the
the
people
fuck
that
it
wear
is.
that fucking ninja bullshit.
Ninja pajamas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's against our civil rights to ban ninja pajamas from a city.
Like, we stopped them once from burning a
like,
flag, but
whoa.
they all stopped on it. But there's other time the group is way too big and we couldn't stop them.
Yeah, they just start attacking us, dude. So we kind of just step back and let them do their thing. There's honestly nothing that we can do.
What do you think when you see it? Well, City Hall, maybe that represents government, fine. But this gal we were just talking with, she's from Olympia Coffee Roasters, which is like one of our most popular, locally owned small business. They buy their beans from the most poorest of the poor. Yeah, they knocked out about they knocked out about 5 panes. I'm gonna run over here and get City Hall real quick. So again, Olympia, South Sound, Thurston County, Washington State, America, I don't know where you're at. But if you're anywhere near here, share this ridiculousness with friends. If you're anywhere near here, send an email. Go to the City of Olympia website and send an email to the all address that goes to all 7 of the city council members who have been so on it to condemn these roving bands of vigilantes that apparently are somewhere. Roving bands of Proud Boys and 3%ers and militia. And people carrying, according to Councilwoman Dani Madrone, up to 4 guns apiece. Let's pay attention to the splinter in your eye while I ignore the log in my own. Or maybe just once, you could pull your head out and say, hey, you know what? I think I could step up and show some spine and disavow and denounce violence and vandalism in protests. Maybe I could show some political spine and some actual leadership instead of worrying about which way the political winds are blowing and maybe make the winds blow. Maybe I'll be something other than a worthless mouthpiece for self-righteousness and sanctimonious grandstanding. And maybe I'll act like a leader. There's a broken planter from the restaurant across the street that became ammo. I'm not a glazier, but I'm going to guess there's probably $60,000 worth of damage here. Some kid the other night was blathering on while he was high about restorative justice. Restorative justice. Well, we've got cameras all over downtown. There's a camera right there. I don't think it's too tough to go through a couple weeks worth of video and find what kid wears what outfit and what corner does he come from and what car did he get out of. There's cameras throughout our downtown, throughout. And you could find a license plate and you could find everybody that did this and say, you snot-nosed piece of crap, you're not going to get bailed out by some money. You're going to come down instead of some city worker having to deal with your bullshit. We're going to engage in that restorative justice you're so proud of. We're going to let you get down and scrub and clean, replace. And maybe you don't have a whole lot of empathy for the cops if you're a cop hater. Maybe you're just interested in your own financial well-being. Well, I'll tell you what. Look at all these cops. Do you think they're free? You got at least 10 grand in cop money right here. Violence and vandalism. Be safe. I don't know that there's a whole lot more to show or where the group of 40, we might ask if any of the police know if that group is still intact. The fire department has moved on from the dumpster in front of the former Orca Books. But right over here is where the crowd of 40 to 50 folks on foot were. We hear some fireworks, but haven't seen any more evidence. Lacey and Thurston County are helping out to respond to the scene at City Hall, while at the same time This is one of the busier nights of the year for police because of fireworks and lost pets and fires and gunshots or mistaken fireworks for gunshots. This is an Olympia cruiser. That fellow was kitted out in riot gear, but with all these units hanging out down here, it's not likely that there's an active call for that. I was gonna see if... Do you know if the band of folks marching down here is still there?
I don't know, sir, to be honest with you.
Thank you. But at least, thanks to our city council, mayor pro tem, thanks to some of our former city councilmen, we've got police that can't do anything, that can't use any crowd control mechanisms, the no pressure cooker method that helps to disband and dissipate, helps to limit police and citizen interface, and helps to prevent vandalism. Oh wait, I guess it doesn't. If you've been watching for a little while, the two fellas that I was talking with a few minutes ago are a couple of Native American fellas who've been here protesting, the better part of 3 weeks. And they were just giving us a kind of a first-hand experience of what it's like when the mob kind of turns a little bit and goes off the rails. What's that?
A couple weeks ago, Thurston County and his boy followed me to my house and threatened my life. The guy right there in the hat. And then we almost got arrested from the cops because they called the cops on us.
Who's...
I'm about to go confront him now. These fucking out, bro. I have kids at my house, bro. You can't be following me to my house.
Understood.
And this guy with the mask right here flinching in his pockets when we
trying to
walk
pull weapons out on
by.
us.
That's probably why they feel intimidated.
Yeah,
bro.
you did.
Yeah,
I don't think he meant to from what he's doing.
He fucking stopped real quick like this and looked at us.
No, I zipped up my first of all, I zipped up my
You were like this and
You
you
think you
stopped.
scared me? I've been dancing a few times after acting.
You're stuttering. You're clearly
Well, like,
scared.
that's why
I'm not
probably
scared,
people are
dude.
doing this
Yeah,
shit, bro.
you
Why
are.
you
I'm
trying
not
to pull
scared,
weapons? You don't
I'm
even
not
know who
scared
we
either.
are. We're walking by and you're
Okay,
trying to
then
pull
have a good
weapons
night.
on us.
Then have a good night.
You have a good night.
So let's stay civil.
Bro,
Oh, no, this guy followed
why'd
us
you
to our
follow
house,
me home, bro?
Yeah,
You fucking
bro.
follow me home. Don't fucking lie to me.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
you
did.
did. Because I contacted Tracy and
I
told
saw
her.
you in
You and your boy
I
followed
saw
me
you
home.
in that Subaru, bro.
You and your
Like, you
fucking
can't
boy
lie, bro.
followed me the fuck
And then you
home
went down
and
the
then called the
street.
cops on us.
Then went
I
down
have my
the
kids
street
at my
to
home,
see
bro.
what's
That's
going
fucked
on.
up. Stop him. But then why did you call it? We weren't behind you guys. You guys were behind us. Don't fucking lie. You fucking popped up real fucking quick. I have my fucking kids following me home. Honestly,
So a little verbal altercation going on between folks who've been down here quite a bit, from folks live streaming and folks protesting. I think that's blowing off some steam and hopefully not going to go anywhere. This is one more shot of Olympia coffee roasters that's been smashed on. 1, 2. 3 and 4 windows. Big plate glass windows. And windows that it actually takes a little bit of That window's a good 4.5 feet off the ground, those last two panes that are smashed. There's no rationale, there's no logic, there's no reasoning with just a raw desire to smash. And again, Thurston County, Washington State Patrol, and Lacey have responded to help out Olympia in responding to the damage at City Hall and throughout downtown Olympia. Earlier, the police who were standing here, understandably not comfortable speaking their minds, but just informally being asked off camera if they've ever taken a life or if they've ever saved a life. All three of them said they've saved a life. Not one of them has said they've taken a life. Of course, the ultimate privilege, independent of race, gender, economic status, the ultimate privilege are the jackasses who have no idea of how much bullshit cops run interference for us on, how much bullshit they deal with so we don't have to, so we can stay safe and warm tucked in our homes in cul-de-sacs or apartment buildings or downtown in duplexes and high-rises. The people who spray paint, fuck the police, defund the police, all cops are bastards. The ultimate privilege is feeling so safe and so immune, so insulated from utter bullshit, and having no clue that life isn't like that in a whole lot of parts of the world. That to me is the ultimate privilege. If you have such a sense of security in your home and in your day-to-day life that you think we could just fuck the police and do without them, you truly have your head up your ass. Now, I didn't say I wasn't going to editorialize tonight, so if that's what you were looking for, you might need to find another channel. And you can pretty much bet that these broken windows that have gaping holes probably won't be left as is, which means you'll have fire and police working overtime on your dime to clean up after somebody who probably has brought nothing to our community, probably has invested nothing, maybe even got here 6 months ago. But they somehow have the right to screw it all up for the rest of us. Thurston County Sheriff has responded also in support of police at City Hall. Do you happen to know if the group of 40 or 50 that were over there is still on the move?
I have no idea where they're at now.
Thank you. And in terms of being able to respond to other needs? Okay. No sweat, thank you. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 county units on that street alone. So if you care nothing about this other than the sheer money that could be spent on better things, on social programs, on helping people in need, then maybe take some action. Stay home, fine. Write a letter to the editor. Write an email. Write 7 emails to our 7 woke city council members. Write 33 emails to the 33 woke politicians who were more worried about this fictitious band of roving vigilantes with 4 guns apiece strapped on them. Maybe instead you could write a letter asking those 33 woke politicians. That letter's all over social media. It's all over city council members, Renata Rollins, Dani Madrone, and 5 others. You can find it if you're not familiar with it. And maybe ask them, could you also pause and maybe denounce vandalism and violence in protests? Maybe sign on to the resolution saying we fully support civil rights, to protest, to march, to chant, to peacefully assemble, and to engage in nonviolent civil disobedience. And we also unequivocally denounce and disavow violence and vandalism in protests. And if you don't have a politician or a candidate willing to do that, maybe ask them why. Why do you just sit silent and let this continue on night after night, week after week, choking the life out of our downtown? There's a different statue. Years ago, this city council, previous city councils, City Hall, when it was being built, there was an idea to have thought bubbles poking out of the building that would have different things on them, or even some ideas to have them changeable. And it was going to cost too much, or it was going to be too avant-garde, and somehow it didn't fit with how Olympia's not quite that funky or something. But some of us have often said, boy, that would certainly come in handy to be able to have changeable thought bubbles poking out of our city hall. Sort of like the old-fashioned reader boards in some small towns that, just kind of say the things that need to be said, things that your grandma might say at the dinner table when she doesn't have an edit button. Not sexist, not racist, not ist of any kind. Just common sense stuff like, this bullshit needs to stop. You're not protesting anything by doing this. I even question your motives, the people who do this. The people with sincere motives left at 9 p.m. They punched out on the clock. And then the ninja pajama wearing, overwhelmingly white and privileged snot-nosed punks came and did this. I guess if you don't have any other talents, maybe that's why you're so pissed off. I can't create art. I can't play a guitar. I can't teach children. I can't make irresistible cuisine or a perfect cup of coffee. But I can fuck shit up. Well, Freud said we all have to find our calling and put it to good use. Somebody just threw a really loud firecracker in the middle of the intersection next to police, which is not a good idea.
Good?
Yes. Here's the poster for today's daytime activities. The 2 p.m. at Woodruff Park. I was there last week where some counter-protesters and protesters kind of had a skirmish. That's where the march began today and went to the Capitol and then down to finished at Heritage Park with some hangers-on hanging out at the fountain in downtown Olympia across from the Oyster House.
Time they did the fireworks things when they got excited. Yeah, that's right.
Bummer.
Stop, baby. Yep.
So the fellow who was throwing firecrackers near the police, not near them in a threatening way, but close enough in proximity to be very unsettling to people who are worried about retaliation and gunfire, to throw a large firecracker is not only stupid and dangerous, but it's dangerous to yourself. Again, though, downtown Olympia is not rife with a lot of intelligence and wisdom anyway right now, so looks like the fellow who was doing it is moving on. Did you ask if we might take one last round through downtown? So do you live, work, or play downtown?
I come down here and support defending the Constitution. I do.
Say that again?
I come here and support defending the Constitution. Absolutely.
Oh, so you come down just to be a part of protesting or counter-protesting?
Counter-protest.
Okay.
I'm for the protest, but when it gets violent and they start running businesses, local businesses and shit like that, windows and crap like that, that's a form of domestic terrorism. You know, anytime anyone feels scared, so that's what I'm here to stop.
Well, the mayor said it wasn't domestic terrorism after all.
Yeah, I heard that. She backed out real quick.
Why do you think that is?
She got scared because her house got vandalized? I don't know.
So if the movement, if the protest, if the group, if the march is scary enough, is dangerous enough, is threatening enough, then we kowtow or we give in.
And we're not supposed to do that. If you budge for those people, if you budge for those kind of people, then you're going to budge for other kind of people, you know what I mean? You're not supposed to be able to budge for those kind of people. You're supposed to stop it where it starts. Keep the firm back.
They're good. All right, thanks, partner.
Yeah. See you, buddy. Be safe. They're having a good conversation up there.
Pardon?
They're having a good conversation.
Oh, yeah?
About how they want to facilitate talking about not dealing with these Antifa guys.
Well, that's easier said than done because they're, instead of saying,
I bet I would know him if I saw him. But I do know, like, I went to work with him, so I know him very well. And Donald.
They're trying to get Simeon and Donald to sit down and talk.
If we,
Take a break. Take 5. No?
no,
Okay.
I'll just let you guys, if you're having a dialogue, go ahead.
It'd be nice to get you in on it.
Well, I heard the periphery, and what I would say to you guys that have been down here protesting quite a bit is, and I'm going to do an interview with one of the leaders of our local BLM protest. What do you say when we see a poster last week for the march through downtown on Saturday that went up here to Bigelow Park, and it started over to REI on Saturday, and it said, this protest honors a diversity of tactics. That phrase, a diversity of tactics, means that, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't care if you smash windows. I don't care if you take concretes. I don't care if you take bottles to heads, to cops, or to reporters. If that's the way you choose to protest, I'm going to honor the diversity of tactics that you use. I only use signs and chants. If the BLM protests are going to have that kind of slogan, we honor a diversity of tactics. Do you think that's cool to get bigger numbers, or do you think, hey, we need to cleave off the violent fuckers and say, go home and vandalize your parents' basement?
Yeah, I wasn't here for that Saturday. I don't know what
Yeah,
that
we were
song
at
was
home,
even
but
in there. I never
I didn't
even
even
heard
know
about
that.
that
Yeah,
song.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
They
I
need to
never
cut
heard
those
about that
fuckers
song.
off, though.
What would you do? If you had a magic wand, what would you do to kind of...
Dude, there's so many more Antifa, though. Like, they overrun us.
Yeah, no. Here in Olympia, it's
There's
mainly
so
Antifa.
much fucking more, dude.
It's not the same as Tacoma or
Yeah,
Seattle.
see, your group, so if
They're a
you get
little
your
more
group together
organized there.
with
Yeah,
the
shit
good
gets crazy
parts
there,
of my
but they're
group.
more organized there. They know what they're there for. Like when the Native Americans did the big one over, I don't know what the park's called, Heritage Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they ran that one was peaceful. It was a peaceful rally, and then everyone dispersed, and the group left over was the Antifa people. And that's why it got a little hectic.
When was that?
When we saw it in 2 weeks.
Are you talking weeks ago, or
That was
months
that big
ago, or
thing that
days
happened
ago?
at the
It was
fountain
a
park.
couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
Huge
It
thing
was
that
a
happened.
huge one.
I don't know what it was called, but it was that big one where they had guest speakers and everything.
That happens. We have paddles, right? We have native demonstrations. We have women and kids and families and little ladies wearing pussy hats. Stuff doesn't get messed up when 1,000 or 2,000 people show up with AR-15s on the Capitol. It doesn't get messed up when 1,000 or 2,000 people show up with pussy hats on at the Capitol. It gets messed up when these people in ninja pajamas show up at the end of other protests.
Or like when the group came from Tacoma, like everybody knows how bad Tacoma is. The group that came from Tacoma, we went to the Capitol, we just listened to music.
Everyone was
We were
chill.
just there. James Lee turned his light
And
off,
it's
everyone
funny.
got hyped. It was
It's
just
funny
perfect
because there
chill.
wasn't that many Antifas there. There wasn't a bunch of people wearing ninja shit. It was just people like us with our faces showing, just chilling and dancing, you know, and enjoying
It was
it.
100% peaceful. They came from Tacoma.
There was barely any of those fuckers there.
They were outnumbered, so they just stayed in the crowd and hid.
Yeah.
What do you think of the idea that, fine, I'm pissed off about it, I'm going to whine and nitpick about it, but what do you think about the idea that it takes any sympathy that all the people around here living in the suburbs and in their cul-de-sacs, in their nice houses, any sympathy they have for the protests and the movement, and it kind of throws it out the window when this happens? I mean, do you see that?
Yeah, I see that because I mainly see reporters show up when there is chaos or something.
Right, somebody
when I mainly
gives a
see
great
it.
speech that's eloquent and not so much.
then
But you smash something or set it on fire?
The good speech is gone now.
Yeah,
and now it's all about
canceled. There was one day it was perfectly fine. There was Q13 over there. They walked up to Q13 and they started
was a good
yelling.
night.
They started yelling at them because they're not recording
They stopped
how peaceful
recording
it
when we
was.
were kneeling and stuff.
Yeah, they weren't recording that at all. They were just standing there, and then when people started yelling, then they got up and recorded, and then put it down when we were all quiet, taking a knee or laying on the ground. They didn't record that shit, so they got heated about that because they're not recording the peaceful stuff. The main news wants chaos to happen. That's what they want to show.
And to be honest, the first night I was here and somebody singled me out for rolling during some of those quiet times and stuff and got kind of in my face. You guys were here.
I don't mind you recording at all. It doesn't
The numbers of people watching, the guy who was running it that night, Don, I mean, he's pretty public, he's open, so I'm not outing anybody. He was giving good discussion and direction through the megaphone. He was keeping people in order, discouraging fighting and vandalism.
Antifa tried to argue with them. Don said, "Fuck this, we're going down the street. We're not dealing with that." And he brought all the peaceful people with them.
And so when those protests are peaceful, the numbers of people watching goes down.
Yeah, exactly.
When
'Cause they wanna
stuff's
see
being
chaos.
burned down and there's chaos going on, the numbers go through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. They just
But people
wanna-
don't
people
look
not
at it with
watching.
empathy and with understanding. They look at it with disdain and resentment.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the chaos and shit, it just cancels out all the peaceful stuff that's happening. That's just what it does.
Is the group gone now?
Well, all the cruisers are taken on. Well, wait a minute. Now they've pulled off up here. Thanks for the talk, guys.
Yeah, take care, buddy.
I don't know if this is a sign that the group is... Olympia police cruisers are on the move, and that's not quite clear if they're just deciding the remaining folks have disbanded or if there's... if they've been discovered and are doing some other things. Here comes Olympia Fire, which is usually who has to do a lot of the cleanup or a crisis response when fires are started, windows are broken in protests, and a lot of times they're the ones that are the first ones to come back and even put up plywood and so forth. And it looks like the fire department truck is stopped on, is it Adams? I think Adams Street. Which there was some broken windows at the pet store. But they're not right up near the pet store. They look to be a little bit more on the north side of the street. So, possibly something, just go take a look and see if there's anything happening other than response to vandalism. Got a lot of folks out for this late at night. Here comes another fire truck. Some more vandalism here, just the spray paint. Again, this has been going on so long that it's not really clear if that's new or not. It looks like this is actually a call. Olympia Fire responding to somebody who's pretty severely intoxicated. And there's some looky-loos. Some vandalism here on abandoned building. Flattering ACAB and BLM signs up top. And complaints about gentrification, racism, dismantled the police. Oh, looks like they had just enough concrete or rocks to break the window at the former antique mall. I haven't seen any evidence of real significant numbers of folks remaining. Some folks making their way to their beds for the night. Somebody's trying to put some plywood up here at the pet store. This is the.
I was gonna call, but I didn't know if you guys already knew or not. He's just passed out. Yeah.
You go home.
This is my home.
This is my home too for the last 50 years. And I don't fuck it up.
I don't fuck it up either.
Thank you.
Dox people, you piece of shit.
Sorry this happened, fellas.
All those windows are busted out.
Oh. Jeez. Oh, there's Jeff.
Yeah, I'll cross with you.
Do you mind if we get a shot of this?
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Octopus. They've got their obligatory support signs in the window and they still got smashed.
Hey, how's it going, dude?
How you doing, buddy? I'm sorry.
Well, let's take me. This is this guy.
Well, still,
Do you need any help, guys?
We're on it.
All right.
We're on it. I'm off the path, so.
So there's some of the vandalism up close. And also some self-righteousness from one of the protesters who thinks it's unacceptable to document that we're somehow part of the problem as opposed to documenting the problem. And obviously we disagree or we wouldn't be down here. If you disagree, you've heard me blather on a few times, maybe you could send some letters into your U.S. Congressman, state legislator, state senator, Sam Hunt, state legislator, Lori Dolan, Beth Dolio, council members in the city of Tumwater, council members in the city of Lacey, council members in the city of Olympia. All 7 of the council members in the city of Olympia saw fit to obsess and virtue signal about these fictitious vigilantes running amok around downtown Olympia, terrorizing people supposedly, but not a peep about the people actually fucking up downtown Olympia. Not a frickin' peep. In fact, in response to my request that they stand up, they wrote a second letter sharing how many businesses stand with them that don't care about choking the life out of downtown Olympia, paralyzing and terrorizing it for 5 more weeks after 12 weeks of paralysis thanks to coronavirus lockdown. So you could certainly, if nothing else, sign the petition that says I support civil rights to peaceably assemble, to march, protest, engage in nonviolent civil disobedience, and I unequivocally disavow and denounce vandalism and violence in protests. You could do that. You could also ask your local electeds and all of your candidates. We're in the middle of a primary right now. You've got ballots in your mailbox as we speak, and they're due back by August 4th. You could certainly send letters of inquiry or emails to all those electeds and ask them, geez, if you cannot at least come out with some kind of common sense that says, yeah, I support all the civil rights to peaceably assemble and engage in nonviolent civil disobedience, to march and chant and protest, and I unequivocally disavow violence and vandalism. And if your electeds or if your candidates in your area can't find it in their heart or their head to do that, maybe ask them why. Doesn't seem that hard, doesn't seem that highfalutin abstract. It seems like common sense and decency. Instead, these guys have to be out here at midnight cleaning up after the diaper-wearing pajama ninjas who screw everything up for the rest of us. And of course, you're paying for it. You don't feel it, so you may not care. It's like a fireman just cut himself trying to clean up after Antifa. I saw Jeff the Anarchist earlier.
Yeah, he just rolled by. He went that way and eyeballed us.
Must have a revolution to spawn. Or maybe there's other city halls to vandalize. There's, or a Tri-City area. Maybe that's where the mob went to. There's Lacey and Tumwater County. Because it'll be coming your way next, eventually. They never said that would happen with homelessness, addiction, and mental illness, and that's countywide now. The 33 folks, the politicians who signed on, worried more about vigilantes roaming the streets of Olympia than the people destroying the streets of Olympia. They were from Lacey City Council, Lacey Mayor, Tumwater City Council, a county commissioner, state representatives, U.S. representative. I think maybe we could get some of those people. We just had 500 people watching this. I know you don't all live in the South Sound. A lot of you do. You think if 500 people got off their duff and simply pushed a button on their computer and wrote a little note saying, hey, do you think you could unequivocally denounce and disavow violence and vandalism in protests while still unequivocally supporting people's rights to protest, people's rights to peaceably assemble, people's rights to engage in nonviolent civil disobedience. They got 500 of those things, especially right before an election on August 4th. They're not all up for re-election, but they're all scared of the tide turning, of the woke folks starting to lose their grip on power in this region, and maybe some folks with some common sense stepping in. You could be against vigilantism, absolutely. I am. But you could be against vigilantism and against violence and vandalism in protests. Those two are not what we call mutually exclusive. It's not an either or, it's an and. Our city's going down the tubes thanks to a lack of leadership.
What do you mean?
Well, people have come through downtown for the last 5 weeks and broken things and spray painted things and made people not come downtown. Well, you'll see about 30 broken panes of glass that are anywhere from $400 to $1,000 a piece. The City Hall has, I don't remember, I counted them up for the video, but there's a good, probably 50, 60 grand worth of damage on City Hall.
Why do you think people are doing that?
Because they can. I mean,
You don't think it's because they're angry about the fact that people are dying?
no, I think the people that are angry about people dying, they stick to that message and they check out at about 9:30. And then the people come and punch their cards in that are wearing all black ninja pajamas. And those people are not here to protest or in anger about civil rights or police brutality or inequality. Pardon?
What do you think they're doing? I'm just asking.
I think they march through downtown and look for things to break. In fact, they look for things to break so desperately that you see these firemen here putting up slabs of plywood. They literally have come through our downtown and torn slabs of plywood off of windows so that they can get to glass to break. That to me is not somebody focused on civil rights and police brutality. That's somebody dressed up like a ninja who comes...
Do you think that that's racist to say that there are people dressed up like ninjas?
No, I don't think that's racist. Why?
Why not?
Because
That's like a really weird stereotype, I think.
No, the people who swing baseball bats are pretty much dressed in black head to toe.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they're ninjas.
And that to me looks exactly like a ninja. Yep, you guys be safe tonight. If there's any ninjas watching who I have offended, I don't apologize. Your martial art went out years ago. It's ineffective. If you're a ninja, sorry. Throwing stars aren't effective. Ninjutsu isn't effective. There's been a lot more evolution and advancement in the fighting arts in the last 250 years or so since you were relevant. But that's an aside. I hope she was being facetious, but I don't think she was. Well, Olympia, South Sound, Western Washington, beyond. I think we're going to call it. Unless the fire truck may be coming here for, I don't know if they're going to actually board up City Hall now, which might make for some interesting visuals. And it looks like they're not going to board up City Hall tonight. They're probably going to wait until daylight because that'll be staffed most of the night. And the ninja pajama wearers have probably returned to their parents' basement. Oh.
There you go.
Some of the staff or owner or manager of Olympia Coffee Roasters is now in the building. The fire department got the side windows that were open, kind of gaping open, and they looks like they left the large bay windows in the front uncovered, or maybe those didn't actually penetrate through, so they didn't. I'm not sure what the criteria is to what they help board up and what they don't. Sorry this happened, fellas.
Nah, whatever. I'm just annoyed it's my Friday and the owners made me come down here to take pictures, which is very annoying, but I support everything that is being communicated with us.
Oh. Not sure what that means. He supports, but certainly unfortunate. Just going to take a second here to see what, if we can see what folks are saying or asking. Hi. One, two, three, fourth. I didn't see any broken windows there tonight. We saw a tremendous amount of graffiti spray painted on it. Somebody asked about ninja pajamas, and no, they are not pajamas with ninjas on them. They are little black outfits, head to toe, with a gap only for the eyes. And those are ninja outfits. What do you think? Nope, we came down just to see City Hall and then saw it as we were looking at some of the windows and such. Are you guys connected to Olympia Coffee Roasters?
I work there. I'm the lead there.
Oh, I'm sorry to have this happen.
I heard about it.
So it looks like about 3 or 4 staff from Olympia Coffee Roasters are here now just to sort of survey the damage.
No, yeah.
But not private business, like small businesses. No, they're
The fire department got the 2 side windows boarded up, but these 2 front ones are not.
Somebody was in here just a few minutes
Yeah, they
ago.
just left.
Okay.
yeah.
Back over at City Hall, if you haven't seen the damage and devastation here. I tried to quote somebody the number of panes that I had counted, but I was distracted by something else and lost count. So we're going to try it again and find out just how many panes, sort of Sesame Street style, how many panes can ninja pajama wearing pseudo protesters smash. There's one. Two, that's got to be replaced. 3, that's got to be replaced. Not smashed, just BLM'd. 4. Oh, there's one way up there. You can see the little, it's kind of like my windshield if any of you have been watching from the car-based broadcast. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That one's broken through. 2 that are just painted. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, another painted one, but not 19. Oh, yeah, that's definitely 20. I think that's what I said when somebody asked me. Don't see any others. So 20. The doors are usually a lot more expensive. And these are probably a lot more expensive than like what you'd see over at Olympia Coffee Roasters. Just the structural, this glass is probably a lot more spendy. Plus 4-door panes, a security door on the police department. So I'm not going to guesstimate anymore. We'll ask the city. You ask the city. Send an email. If you send an email, by the way, to Jessica Bateman, Lisa Parshley, Clark Gilman, Jim Cooper, Renata Rollins, Cheryl Selby, or Dani Madrone, any of the 7 city council members, you can ensure that that's on the public record. It has to be. It becomes a public record document. They don't have to respond to it necessarily. I've sent some things that nobody's responded to. Some other folks have sent things nobody's responded to. But they have to respond to certain things like the city does, public records requests and so on. But there'll be probably a lot of people now asking, how much is this costing? Not in police overtime, not in public works staff time or clean team time and all the little controversies we had about that stuff recently. But how much is it costing just in raw materials for 20 panes of glass? Door panes. It'd be nice to know how much it's costing in terms of police overtime, because that is not cheap, and there's been a lot of it. Downtown is now getting a little bit quieter. Oh, except somebody's launching firework shells in the middle of downtown from 4th Avenue. Woke up the seagulls. I think we're about ready to wrap up Olympia, South Sound, Western Washington, Thurston County. Happy 4th of July. Happy birthday, America, number 244. We don't always get it right. We need to do better, reform some things. I don't know if we need a revolution. We certainly don't need people who can only contribute breaking shit. Have a good night.